All right. Hi everybody. My name is Fugacity. I've been playing Mafia for about a year and a half. I'm pretty excited about this game. I really like playing it. I met many really nice people, and I'm hoping that in some near future we'll have some English tournaments in Mafia, and we'll be able to like meet each other in person and like hang out. And that's like the really cool part about Mafia game is that you meet really cool people. Today I'll talk about how to play as Sheriff. It will be a pretty short, mainly like some tips and observations. Like if you play at like high tier, high stakes tournament games, generally strategies are very different, and sheriffs, they act a bit more actively than what I'll cover today. The first thing that I would suggest is that you normalize your emotional and sort of behavioral state. You want to sort of appear as like a lazy, tired person that sort of doesn't really have a strong opinion about things, doesn't really have like a very strong critiques about player speech, etc. So you want to like stay as gray as possible. You don't want to appear very red, and you don't want to appear very black. You avoid being critical, and you avoid being very like crazy about other people's speech. There are several checks. There are several types of checks that you can do. Ideally, you want to check people that will reveal some sort of colors or some sort of like a direction to you. So if I check player 8 who has contradictions with 9 and 10, if player 8 checks as red, then I can sort of like make a sort of assumptions that players 9 and 10 can be black. If player 8 checks as black, then people who play against him, like for instance 9 and 10, they are possibly red. When you play at the tournament level, if you know for a fact that you have a very strong player at your table, it's generally not ideally to check that player, because typically strong players at the tournament level they get so typically like there's a static shot that is assigned for that person. Another type of check that you can do as a sheriff is you check someone who you think is a red player and who has a very difficult time at the table. So you want to sort of like protect red players that are very likely to be eliminated first. You can check sort of like weak players that can be black. So if you check someone who you think is a black player, you check him first, and if that player is sort of like relatively new in the game, then you know that you can convince the city to eliminate that person in the round one. You want to have a very clear justification for your checks. So if you check someone, whether it's a directional check or whether it's you're trying to protect a red player who can be easily eliminated, so you want to have a very clear explanation for why you check someone. If I check player 8 who has contradictions with player 9 and 10, if I check player 8 and 8 appears to be as red, I can assume that 9 and 10 are black players. So it is something that I need to clearly communicate, because if you play with the Don who pretends to be a false sheriff, you need to convince the city that your action actually makes sense. As a sheriff, you sort of don't want to reveal yourself too soon, and you don't want to reveal yourself too late. So if you already hear that someone is playing a fake sheriff role, you want to reveal yourself right away. That's why you have false. You take a fall and you say, hey, I'm a real sheriff. I have a 8 is my red check. And you need to do it like right away, because if you take too long, it will be harder to convince the city that you are the real sheriff. If you check someone who is a red player and you want to sort of like protect yourself for the next round and not be killed, you reveal yourself to that person in particular. But you have to do it in a very subtle way, like the most subtle way possible. For instance, if let's say that I check Mika and Mika is red. It's much easier to do it in person, because I can just wink to her, and sort of she will realize that she was checked by me. Online, it's much harder to do, but there are sort of like a couple strategies on how a couple ways to go about it. What is informative election? Informative election is when you select two people from two different teams, from team A and team B, and you say, hey, like let's vote, like let's have informative election between two candidacies, and then you sort of like see how the votes are being distributed between two players, and that sort of like gives you an idea who can be in what team. Another way to do, like, to reveal yourself as a sheriff to a player, you sort of like hear what Mika was what Mika talks about, and if she like suspect player number 10, for instance, and you check player number 10 and 10 is black, I can reveal myself to Mika and say, player number 7, good job. So sort of she realized that if her vector of attack wasn't player number 10, and I reveal myself to her, then she can pull out the donut and say, I am the real sheriff, 10 is my black check. If she gets killed in this round, she says, hey, I'm not the sheriff, Fugacity reveal himself to me, with 10 being a red, with 10 being a black check. So those are basically like some very simple basic strategies on how to play a sheriff. Again, your emotional state, you want to be very, you want to sort of be like very gray, not too red, not too black. You want to wait for a moment when someone reveals themselves as a fake sheriff, and then you have to reveal yourself right away. So if you guys have any questions, please ask.
There is another thing you can do. A simple game. If you don't want to reveal yourself at 9 players, like the Dawn reveal himself fiercely and had black check, not on you, not on the red check of yours, you can hide, play simple, said like, yeah, let's start balance, let's vote him out, and then next round reveal yourself with the real check. But that's only if you are not the black check of the Dawn as a sheriff, and only if the red check of yours is not a black check. So you still have your information, keep safely, and next round you can reveal the truth.
Yeah, the general like rule of thumb of revealing yourself, if you think you're in Critica, like you don't know what if you we eliminate that, like for say player number 10, and I am as a sheriff, I don't know her color, and then after another round, for me I'm impossible Critica, and then I have to really reveal myself and do it as soon as the morning begins, because if you hesitate, you will be more black, because the black hesitates to reveal himself.
When you mentioned the informative election, so how do you get the table to play along with that? So I think I've seen someone, it may have been you, say that once, right? And I don't think the table necessarily went along with it, and I wonder if it's just because we don't typically, at least in the London club, I haven't seen us play with that yet. In the Spanish club here, I haven't seen it either, but I saw you try and do it once. I'm not sure how successful it was because I don't remember if the table went along with it. But is the idea just you say, look, guys, I'm the sheriff. I want to have a free election between two people, and I want to see how everyone votes. Is that the general idea? And then, like, how do you, when you say like you called it an informative election, you mean literally just look, we're splitting, we're going to vote between X and Y, and I'll tell you what my thoughts are later. Like, how do you present it? How do you use it?
Well, informative election is when typically it happens when you already have two sheriffs version. When you have a sheriff and you have a fake sheriff. Like, let's say I'm the sheriff and I reveal myself with 7 being red, and you are a fake sheriff. You reveal yourself as 10 being red, for instance. Okay, so let's have informative elections. We're not gonna vote me. We're not gonna vote you. We're not gonna vote 7 and 10. So 4, 6, 7, and 10 are not for the vote, and we're selecting two people from two different teams, and we're doing informative election and see how the votes are being distributed. So then it will give us basically more information on how to find a mafia. Typically, like, don't advise for like new, like in the beginning, to vote out sheriffs in the like in a round of 9. That's genuinely like a bad strategy. Even if you vote out Don, you don't really have an information like who can be with the Don.
I would correct it just a little bit. It doesn't matter if you have two versions or one version. Informative, it's just when we have two candidates that we vote for. So it could be that there is only one sheriff at the table and he just chooses two people. It just usually we don't choose two people who seem to be playing together. So let's say player number 6 says that 4 is red and 4 is saying that 6 is red. And even if the whole table believes that 4 and 6 might be black together, we will not do the voting phase between 4 and 6 because they could be red together. So we will choose one, like the most suspicious one of 4 and 6, and we will choose somebody who they are attacking because most likely they are attacking the same people because they are playing together, right? And then by this, you will see who votes against whom, and this way the sheriff will be able to make better check because then, oh well, you voted this person out, right? Because some one of them will leave eventually, right? Because we're voting.
Yeah, and also red check can do this as well because maybe the sheriff don't want to reveal himself too early. He had a red check on his first like night, which is not good because it's like makes the situation more tougher. And then the red check can propose such a voting to like see the table better, to see the groups revealing. Because it's one thing to say I'm playing with this person, and other thing to see me voting for some person. It's um, uh, your words are less valuable than your actions.
Yep.
Also,
Just
another small thing: if you are the sheriff and you are at round zero, you are very suspicious. Everyone suspected you, and at round one, people try to vote you out. They nominate you. Do not hide. You do not hide. Give the information. Try to help the Reds. Sometimes sheriff try to hide too much, too hard, and they found themselves out. That won't help the game. That
The other
the
way
first
around.
one, the first one to came out and check this, the other one black is most likely the sheriff. If the another one came as a sheriff, he's most likely the real sheriff, the one who checked first, the one who checked the
Yeah,
black one. He's
because
statistically more likely to be the sheriff.
it's easier for black players to see that the real sheriff checked you as black and to come out as opposite sheriff because you have nothing to lose in this position. You can
Mhm.
just say no, I'm sheriff, and then give like usually they give the check on the other sheriff as black, which is I call it like lazy checks because when uh, statistically, if a person have more lazy checks, like a person who died and then afterwards the person who came out as sheriff is least likely to be the real sheriff because it's lazy checks.
just two questions. Number one, is there a case when the Don will use this for any reason? I mean, like, is and why? Like, how would that be helpful? Would it be that they're just trying to put two red players up and they're trying to force the real sheriff to come out and say, "Hey, hold on,
Yep.
like, we don't want to do this"? Yeah, it would be that. And then on the subject of the red check doing it, I mean, how do you get the table to play along? You're saying, "Look, I'm the red check, and I just want to do this." What if the actual sheriff doesn't agree with you? Like, how do you kind of coordinate that?
That's where your mafia skills come into play. You want to be persuasive. You want to have clear justification for why you're doing it, and you want to be convincing. Well, to sort of like decompose your what you said into like two questions. So your first question is you don't want to check the blackest person on the table because that person is very likely to go and you will waste a check. I would say that is true for like especially for like higher tier table. Would you agree with me, Mika? When it's obviously that someone is black and sort of everybody realize that you don't do that. Likely that
Yes.
it's likely that Mafia is trying to sort of like redirect your check into someone like somewhere who is not Mafia because they know colors.
However, you should
Yes.
also think what you think about
Yeah.
what you thought about player number three. So basically, if you thought that three is very suspicious, so you thought that he's mafia,
Mhm.
and these two players asked to check number three, you should understand that they might have just the same train of thought that you had, and they just find that he's suspicious. So it's not that they're for sure black.
You shouldn't like check the blackest player because as player number four said, you might want to save a iffy player on the board with your check and protect them with the red check. But if you think about it, you as a sheriff can like lose one red player in the first round and don't waste like a check or trying to protect him because you will be seeming you will be painted more black because black players defend their own players because there are less of them. You as a sheriff can let one go, like you can waste him. It's not so important because if you really try to protect to stick for this one red player, it will be everybody will be suspicious of you. Why you trying so hard to save him if you can lose one red player at the beginning.
Right. So Mika is way more experienced than I am. I think you've been playing for like more like 5 years or so.
Yes, over 4 years. So I am also in the judge committee of Film Federation. So today we'll be discussing the Dons card. I'll be honest. I find that being a gun, so just a normal black player, is much more relaxing than being Don. But I do prefer to be Don than just a gun. Sometimes, especially when they're not very experienced, it is okay to take the lead. So you will take the Don card, even though you're a gun. So, scenario number one, the ideal scenario is to kill the sheriff in the first night. I mean, if we kill the sheriff in the first night, we don't need to open up. We can play with our black people. We can attack them. It doesn't really matter because there'll be some red players that will attack each other for no reason, and that's fine. Scenario number two, we did not kill the sheriff in the first night, which is the most often. So yeah, player number one just showed that then you will have two versions. If I don't kill the sheriff the first night, I will definitely open up. So for sure, I will give the second version. There is two scenarios of how it will go. Scenario number one, we open up with a black check, we eliminate someone red, we kill the sheriff. So basically, the first night we did not kill the sheriff. It's time to kill him now. I'm always checking the first kill. So basically, whenever I'm done, whoever I kill the first night, I will for sure check him just to know am I supposed to play the second version or not? Because as I said, if I know that he's not the sheriff, yeah, exactly. Like I will verify that he's not the sheriff, so then I will definitely open up. It's not the best strategy because, well, the first kill will say if he's the sheriff or not. So it is better to check someone else and just wait because, well, even if the first kill is the sheriff, well, he will say it, maybe not in the first 10 seconds, but in the first 20 seconds. On the more experienced tables, they say it like in the last 10, 20 seconds because they're like checking maybe somebody will open up to them or maybe somebody will attack their check or etc. How do we open up? Again, if you decided that for sure you will be playing the second version, right, you can just do this and just say like or whatever, right? Give some check. It is very important. If you give somebody red, you need to know for sure that they're not sheriff. So you just verify, like, okay, like you're thinking, like, okay, I'm killing number three. Now, if he's sheriff, he will say that. If he's not the sheriff, then I will open up. And then you're thinking, like, okay, well, player number six is playing with my black people. Like he's playing with my mafia. So that would be good to be a red check. So then you can open up and say, like, oh yeah, six is red. You will have to explain your check. And therefore you need to explain, like, okay, sometimes you can just say, oh, well, I thought he's suspicious, so I checked him. And that could work. But maybe the real sheriff will have much better arguments than you. So it is much easier to open up with a black check. Because then, as Fugacity said, on the non very experienced tables, people tend to not vote the sheriffs out. And then you tend to vote black checks out, right? Because then you will open the balance. So you vote someone else, and then, well, worst case, we will vote Mika out next round, right? The real sheriff then opens up. Now we know who to kill. So we eliminate five. Five is out of the table. He's a red player that just left. I'm killing the sheriff. Sheriff will have his second check. Next round, they will vote me out. That's fine. I'm okay. I'm just leaving. And I still have my mafia who just need to eliminate one person. You don't have to play together all along, right? You can attack your black player and some red player. Because then you can eliminate the black player and say, let's say, like, oh, well, I eliminated him. The game continued. Therefore, I'm red. Now we should continue to listen me and eliminate this red person, right? Because they're black. And this way we'll win. So that's the second strategy. We eliminate someone red. We kill the sheriff. Like, eliminate someone red, kill the sheriff. Relax. On the dynamics, I will say, like, okay, we kill 3, then I open up with black, and then we kill sheriff. So I'm not even saying who is the sheriff or which number we're killing. I'm just saying we're killing the sheriff. Whoever will open up, well, they will be dead. So the third strategy or scenario is to play 2 versions. It is the hardest one for non-experienced players because you need to think of all the teams that will happen, right? So you need to not be lost in your calculations and who you're giving as blacks and reds, because sometimes you forget that, oh, maybe player number 8 was screaming at player number 3 in the 0 round, and now you gave 3 and 8 as black, and everyone is like, but how are they together? So it is harder, and usually 2 versions happen most likely when sheriff actually has a black check. So when the sheriff has a black check, well, most likely you will not eliminate the red player, even if you give him as a black check, because they will most likely eliminate someone else who is black. And number 2, well, sheriff already found 2 black players. It will, like, if we kill him, there is a high chance that he will find the 3rd one. So we don't want to kill him because then his version will be prioritized and he already found all the mafia. So we will just be eliminated one by one. So if we have 9 players at the table and we voted out Sheriff because nobody believed him, nobody trusted him, everyone was like, he's black, I'm for sure suiciding. Because if I will not die, for sure people will eliminate me because they'll be like, oh, well, why didn't she die? But now, also, any color that I gave will give information. So I need to suicide in any case. I need to suicide. I will give some red check. Usually, you give a red check not of your black player. You don't give your black player as a red check because they will not die. So you give somebody who you will kill because you need to kill them. Usually, you give somebody who actually understood that you're mafia. So they understood that you're mafia. City didn't listen to them. City voted out sheriff. And you, as a false sheriff, or actually as a sheriff, you would also check them because you're like, oh, well, why he doesn't believe me? So you go check him and you give him as red, not as black. You give him as red, so he dies. So he dies and he doesn't bring arguments. He doesn't say that you're not a sheriff. It is very important to kill someone in the first night. You can give a statica in the first night. You can kill somebody who you think is sheriff. I don't know, you're sitting, you're like doing your speak out to your mafia, and this guy just sits like this, and he's like scared on the camera. Like you can see that he's scared. I can kill somebody who is uncomfortable to me. Somebody who finds your color well. And he might say on his last speech, like, oh yeah, I think Mika is black. Everyone will forget, guys. Same as with giving the red check of the person who suspects you, right? So that they die. So you can have dynamic. Okay, so first of all, do you guys know what happens if we miss in the first night? Who do we kill next? The first red player at the table. So sometimes when we speak to each other, we will say if, that's if. So if miss, we kill 8. If miss. In the round 0, so that's 0 round. In the 0 round, 8 will speak second plus 2. Then I will speak second plus 2. If I go, 8 will speak second plus 2. Cool?
Usually, when you play only static, you left in the last game with 2 red checks, which didn't die. So how are you supposed to win the game?
You can play 2 versions. So it is harder, but it's just you will need to adapt. So it is, you can play 3 statica, but not on a non-experienced table because you will most likely get lost in your checks and whatever. Before the Ahalay Mahaly, we were giving also with hands, but it would be like, oh, whoever I will say check plus 2, let's say. Or then who I will say is red, we will kill. or whatever else, Ahalay Mahaly, why it's much easier? Because then I could be the Don on 2, and I don't need to give my dynamic away, right? So even if I'm sitting on number 2, I can still listen to everyone and just say like, oh well, check 5. So let's say we have Ahalay Mahaly plus 2, right? And I want to kill number 8. So I can say check number 6 if he is a suspicious one on the table. If he is not suspicious on the table and somebody is attacking him, you will say like, oh, 3, 3, 3. I think 6 is red. Or, I don't know, 4, 4. Don't play with 6. I think he sees Mafia.
Just a quick add. It should be your last gesture before the end of the night. Before
Last number that you show.
last number to show.
Yeah, so Ahalay is basically last number that you show. So yes, Fugacity, it is the last number that you show, but preferably, most likely, on the split. So you show your number on the split, not before, because we're not following you through the whole game. And same applies to the glass, to the whatever. Like, I'm not supposed to be looking at you through the whole game. And this is why we have dynamics. This is not good because I will have to follow the video of my Dawn throughout the whole game. I basically need to stare at my Dawn because I need to communicate. I'll be like, oh, 4, 4. So I'm Mafia, and I'll be like, 4, 4, 4, heart, hi. And they're like, oh, 10, 10, 10. You have such cute glasses. And whatever. I'm not looking at number 2. I'm not supposed to be looking at number 2. I am doing my job as a black player, and I'm communicating with everyone else.
Yeah, one question, one simple question. At round 1, like I want to say, like I'm the Don, we killed 4, okay, and I want, and I did Mahalay plus 3, and I want to kill 7. How can I say about?
I understood the question. You want to kill somebody. You want to kill somebody with Ahalay, starting from the number who is already out of the game.
Yes, how I can say like 4 dead, or what I can say about her? She's dead.
Sure, yeah, you could try to. It will be suspicious in any case, but you could be like, I don't know. We just eliminated number 8, and number 8 is saying like, oh, I think that 6 is Mafia, and you'll be like, oh, well, 4 said that 6 is red. Do you hear me? 4 said. It's important to still finish with number 4,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
if we'll finish with number 6, it's something else.
But
Now,
that's a problem. That's a problem in Mahalay. That's tough.
you do plus or minus to your next Mafia. Why you do that? Because most likely you will not want to kill your Mafia. So let's say Mafia is, I don't know, 479. 479, okay, is Mafia. Then I will give Ahalay plus 2, so that's to 9. So basically, if I want to kill anyone else, I will not need to show my number. If 9 is red and I have Ahalay plus 2, I will not be able to kill 9. Or minus 3, because I said 479. If I'm showing a Sherrif, that's my number.
So, what's your take on a suiciding Don?
If I eliminated Sherrif on the round of 9, I will suicide. So if when we were 9 players, everyone decided that I'm definitely Sherrif and that that Sherrif is Don, I will kill myself to continue pretending being the Sheriff.
But what about like suiciding Dawn on like the first kill is suicide. It's like my most beloved technique.
Okay, I'll explain why suiciding in general is not the best strategy. You need to eliminate 2 reds. So in a normal game, when we don't suicide, we only have 1 time to make a mistake. And then we need to kill every Mafia. When we suicide, we're actually giving an extra day to the citizens. Because now they can eliminate 2 citizens and still not lose the game. Because we're 9 players. In the game that we will play, Fugacity will get Sherrif and I'll get Don. And that would be amazing.